All right, everybody, we are on our way to Game On Expo in Phoenix. We're here with the entire Metal Jesus crew here at SeaTac and right aboard the plane. It's going to be a really good time. I'm super looking forward to it.
Look at you.
All smug in my business class.
Where are you going?
To the very back of the plane.
Like Paul said, we are on a plane from Seattle down to Phoenix, Arizona for the awesome Game On Expo. That's a retro gaming expo, and we are super thrilled to be invited down there. Actually, the entire Metal Jesus crew is going down there as special guests. And the hotel that they have booked all the guests in for the expo is this amazing hotel called the Foundry. And this place is super cool because as you walk in the door, you are greeted to a mural of Burt Reynolds with a wig on for some reason, but the entire place is just covered in art. The whole thing feels like just like an art installation. It's such a cool hotel.
This can only end well.
Check out this interactive art piece here on the floor of the lobby where it tracks you from above and then basically creates ripples on the floor. That was really fun to mess around with. And the rooms in the hotel match the eclectic nature of everything else. Very modern, lots of artwork everywhere, little touches here and there. And I was staying on the 6th floor with a pretty gorgeous view of Phoenix. After dropping off our bags, we stumbled down to the restaurant in the lobby and grab a quick drink and a bite to eat. And then we hear about this arcade called Cobra. Actually, it's an arcade/bar, so we decided to check that out. We flew down on a Thursday, but technically the expo is Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So we have pretty much the first night to just kind of mess around in Phoenix. And this bar was really cool. I had actually been here before a couple years previously, and it's a really nice mix of retro games and pinball machines, and we were just having a great time. I should also mention at this point that some of you are wondering where Reggie is, and the reason why he's not in some of this footage is because he actually has a bunch of friends and family that live down in Arizona, and so he actually flew down several days earlier and was hanging out with them. So you'll see him later on as we get into the expo itself, but that's why he wasn't here tonight. But the rest of the Metal Jesus crew were having a great time just hanging out, having some drinks, playing a bunch of video games of all different genres. And then at a certain part of the night, a random stranger came up and he's like, "Hey, I just put $20 into the Simpsons arcade machine over there and I have to take off. So if anybody wants to jump on that, go for it." And so our buddy Nick, Cody, also John Riggs, and John Hancock both swarmed the machine and beat it. They basically played the entire game. Actually, John later came up to me and he's like, yeah, they beat 3 different arcade games that night. I forget what the other 2 are, but yeah, we were there for several hours. It was really cool. By the way, I mentioned Nick, and Nick is a really cool guy who is a friend of John Riggs, and I hadn't really hung out with him very much before, although I'd seen him at other expos, but he is a personal trainer and he is buff. This dude is huge. And so as the night went on, there was a little bit of an arm wrestling match that happened. And a lot of people tried to take him on. Nobody could, obviously, because the dude has huge arms. But we were just having a great time hanging out. It was a lot of fun.
There goes Tokyo! She's an animal!
Now it's Friday morning and time to head into the expo. And I always get really excited on the first day of an expo because I have no idea what to expect. Although I'd been down to the Game On Expo a couple years prior, and it is legitimately one of my favorite expos because they do it so well. And Game On is one of the most varied expos that I go to. In addition to having vendors that will sell you games, they've also got a free-to-play arcade with pinball machines. They have an auction that they run. They also do cosplay contests. They have an esports zone for people who are into competing with video games. They have panels, which of course I'm going to be part of. This year they had a pachinko area, which I thought was really interesting. And they have live bands playing and just so much more. You get a ton when you buy that ticket. And one of the nice things about coming down a day early is that I didn't really have any obligations on Friday. Our big panel is actually going to be on Saturday morning. So for Friday, I get to just hang out and walk around and talk to people. And we had a table set up so we would hang out there and sign autographs and talk to people and stuff like that. It was pretty fun. What's cool is that Friday wasn't super busy because obviously it's a work day, and so some people are at work and going to wait till Saturday. So we were able to walk around and just pretty much do whatever we wanted for that first day. It was definitely a lot of fun. Obviously playing a lot of arcade games, talking to people, and yeah, I did buy some stuff, and I'm actually going to show that at the end of this video. So I'll show you what pickups I got. At about 4 o'clock, we decided to head back to the hotel. Now the hotel has a great pool, and you know, it's so interesting for us because we're from Seattle, and so, you know, Phoenix is really hot, and man, I'll tell you what, it was really nice sitting next to that pool, jumping in occasionally. Although it's pretty funny though, because I was messing around with my phone and the slow motion feature, so I would record, you know, Cody jumping into the pool in slow motion, having a little bit of fun with that. And then I told Kinsey, I was like, hey, you should totally do it too. And so I actually hunkered down, and yeah, she got me good. It was pretty funny. I deserve that. Oh my God, the video is going to be amazing. Now it's Saturday, and we are getting ready for our panel at 10:30. And here's where I want to explain something, and also, I guess, probably apologize. And that is, the expo opened to the public at 10 a.m. on Saturday. Now, I really like the fact that the Game On Expo has really good security. They basically wand you and you know, check for any weapons, and they'll check your bags and stuff like that. But our panel was literally 30 minutes after the doors opened, and that just wasn't enough time for people to get in, get through security, and make it to our panel. So initially I was like, oh man, this is, you know, not a lot of people. There was a ton of people standing at the door waiting to get in, and later on I heard that people were very disappointed and wanted to get into our panel but just couldn't. And so again, I apologize for that. Setting the schedule is not, that's not what I do. You know, they assign the schedule based on you know, the different guests that they have. So, but I did give them that feedback. So maybe next time we'll have a little bit later and give more people time to actually get in the venue. But I will say that our panel was a lot of fun. Doing these panels with the entire Metal Jesus crew is really just so much fun, having so many personalities up there. And basically we just open it up for questions. You guys ask questions and then we answer it, and we usually just have a ton of fun. We were giving out prizes for people who ask questions. And then afterwards we did a signing for almost an hour, and getting to shake hands with people and hear their stories. And yeah, it was really neat. It was really a lot of fun. After our panel and signing, we were free to walk the floor. And I love expos like this because they are so packed with stuff in every booth that you can walk by a booth 5 times and still discover stuff every single time. It's so much fun. So I walk around looking for stuff to collect, looking for games, things like that. But I also really like people watching. Always cool to see my buddy Sergio rocking out on guitar with his music. If you remember, he and I did a video probably last year where we talked about his NES cartridge was his album release. He basically had digital music on an NES cartridge. Later that evening, we hear a rumor that there is a pinball/bar opening up that evening. Now, what's interesting about this is that it's hidden inside of a pizza joint. So you walk in the pizza joint and you go past the bathrooms, and then there is the refrigerator locker. You open that up, and that opens up into the actual pinball and dance floor, as you can see here. It was really cool and incredibly packed. A couple hours later, we are back at the hotel and hanging out by the pool. It's crazy how in Phoenix it is still 90 degrees at midnight, but man, that pool was feeling awesome. It is Sunday, day 3, and a beautiful day in Phoenix. This is also day 3 of the expo, and I had assumed that since it was going to be Sunday and day 3 that it would be dead, but I was wrong. I mean, this expo was busy pretty much the whole time. I was very impressed. You know, I go to a lot of expos, and it's always really interesting when people come up to me and thank me for coming to their expo, you know, for flying down from Seattle to Phoenix to come to their expo. They're so grateful, but honestly, I am the one who is grateful. I love coming down here and just meeting so many awesome people who are like-minded like me, who are passionate about video games and video game culture, and I love getting into discussions about music and all that sort of stuff. It's just like we're a big family, and this trip was especially awesome because they flew the entire Metal Jesus crew down, which is not something that happens all the time, and we definitely appreciated that. And now I want to show you some of the pickups that I got down in Game On Expo. I'm going to go through these fairly quick here because I haven't had time to play hardly any of them yet because I just got back literally days ago. But I want to start here with the Famicom converter. This was given to me by a fan. He actually created this, and I noticed immediately that the label's really nice and it's also very sturdy. So this is something I'm definitely going to use. And one thing I noticed about the Phoenix area when I previously came down a couple years ago was that the DS selection is not picked over like in Seattle. So I actually picked up a handful of DS and 3DS games, including Drone Tactics here. That's somewhat of an uncommon game. Like I said, I haven't had time to play it yet. I also got Populous DS, Steel Princess, which is a game that Kelsey was looking for. She saw that and she was very jealous. A Witch's Tale. I also picked up Teenage Zombies. I don't know much about, like I said, these yet because I haven't played them, but if you have, let me know down in the comments below. And then a fan gave me a copy of this 3DS game here, Return to Popolacroix, probably because I talked about the original in a PSP video like years ago. And then here I found Boulder Dash XL 3D. And it's funny because I've been playing some Commodore 64 games, and Boulder Dash is a Commodore 64 classic. I had no idea it was released on the 3DS, so I'm curious to check that out. And then there was a booth that was selling these FX Unit Yuki games that I actually heard about originally from Reggie. Reggie has talked about these on previous pickup videos that we've done before, but this guy had a bunch of them here, and so I got 3 of them. I have not played them, but like I said, Reggie won't shut up about them, so I know they're going to be awesome, and especially I'm curious about the Dreamcast game there, so that's going to be cool to have. Another friend of Reggie's, his name is Jared, has been messing around with the Scum VM on Dreamcast, and he hooked me up with this LucasArts collection of classic adventure games, but running on the Dreamcast, so I'm very curious to check that out. And then Limited Run had a booth set up there, and they were selling a bunch of games, so I had to check out Observer for the PlayStation 4. I've actually heard good things about this. I believe it's Cyberpunk, so I'm curious to check that out. And then they also had Bloodstained Curse of the Moon for Switch and for Vita, but in these classic Konami NES style boxes. And so I bought both of those, so that was really cool. So that was our trip to Game On Expo down in Phoenix, Arizona, and I just want to do a huge shout out to everyone who came up and said hello, shook our hand, asked for an autograph, and just talked to us. It was so great to meet all of you. You guys were amazing. Also, a huge shout out to the Metal Jesus crew. You guys are so much fun to travel with. I wish we could go to every expo together because you guys are like family, and it's just so much fun to hang out with you guys. And then finally to the organizers of the Game On Expo, specifically John Gamester81. Thank you so much for bringing us down to Phoenix. It was seamless, it was so easy, and it was just so much fun, and we would love to do it again. So, all right, guys, thank you very much for watching. Thank you for subscribing, and take care.